Alright, we are on the draw with Rug Delver. This hand, I believe, is a keep. We don't have any disruption currently, but we could Thought Scour hoping to find some. We're also on the draw, so we're not super unlikely to find some disruption in a reasonable amount of time. We have a 1-drop, which is usually where we want to be, specifically Delver. I'm not so high on Renegade that I go out of my way to want to slam it. A Watery Grave into an Inquisition of Kozilek probably means Grixis Delver, because I think it's the most popular deck in Modern right now, although any blue-black control deck could reasonably play Inquisition. Grixis Delver is the most popular blue-black deck that runs it, so I imagine that's what they're on. They take out Delver. That's a lot of Traverse. We don't need to worry about Blood Moon. However, I am interested in preserving my life total. Double red is something that I like getting against shadow decks because Bolt Snap Bolt. I think we're going to start off with a Steam Vents. That was me thinking about whether or not, I can start on a Foothills and then use a Breeding Pool to cast Thought Scour. I don't particularly like that option, so I'm not doing that. I don't think it's even close to reasonable to expect to need triple blue. Let's do that. Can I enable Traverse? We are close. Once we crack that fetch, we are in Traverse territory, which is actually going to be great. I am going to go get some threats. What do we start with? That's a very interesting question. They need 2 Stubborn Denials to counter this, because we have the Steam Vents up. I don't want to get a bunch of Mandrills because the graveyard, but Goyf dies to Fatal Push. Delver actually could be really good because I can play it right now, so let's do that for the first one. The first Traverse gets us a Delver. I mean, Delver's almost certainly going to die, but that just makes Goyf more likely to survive. So, no qualms from me there. Naturally, they want to shock because they actively want to lower their life total. They also want to enable Delve Fatty's Snapcaster Mage and Kolagon's command. Death's Shadow confirmed. There's a Street Wraith that confirms it even more. Second green source is awesome because now we can go get a Goyf, play Goyf. How big is Goyf right now? Land, sorcery, instant creature. It's a 4/5. Death's Shadow is a 1/1. Tassiger still walls Goyf effectively, although we do win the race, and Gurmag Angler straight eats it. I'm not sure if I just want to get a bunch of Delvers. It's an interesting idea. Oh my lord, we can go Traverse for Delver, play. We have 4 lands, but we don't have the mana to Traverse twice and get 2 Delvers. We're going to go with a Goyf this time, I think, to be mana efficient. And then if Goyf dies, we'll go for Delver plus Mandrills. Not unlikely that Goyf dies here. I'm actually fully expecting it. Yep. Fatal Push. Happens. I don't want to rely on a bunch of Mandrills because then a Delve Fatty is going to give us a pretty awful nightmare. We could Traverse for Delver, play Mandrills, and hold up Lightning Bolt. Bam. That uses every card in our hand except the one we're about to draw, which hopefully is really good. That's basically the reason that I like Traverse in this deck. It gives us crazy amounts of threat density for the mid-range matchups, which are among our worst matchups. Here's a Snapcaster Mage probably flashing back the Thought Scour. I'm actually pretty happy to see that. Oh, Inquisition. Nice. Nice, that takes away my Traverse. I mean, they could take the Bolt. I don't know if that's important to them. But they could. We will see. They now know that we drew another Traverse. And I don't remember if we have the Bolt in our hand at the start, but it looks like Xmage's log will happily let us know. Turn 1. Where's the Inquisition? Here we go. We had Traverse, Steam Vents, Delver, Foothills, Traverse, Island, Thought Scour. So they didn't know about the Bolt previously. Let's draw a card. Serum Visions. That's a good one. Good pickup. I almost certainly want to cast it. Is there a better land we could draw than Island? It's pretty unlikely. Second Mandrills. Bottom the Misty. I might want the Thought Scour. Might. I don't know. We will have access to quite a bit of mana. We can actually play both of these Mandrills if we delve away our entire graveyard. So we're totally going to do that. And that makes me want to top the Thought Scour a little more because that'll help us refill in case we draw a Snapcaster Mage. So, let's delve. Oh, we actually don't need to get rid of the whole graveyard. Look at that. We're not going to bother with Traverse, so I think we just want to make Snapcaster Mage the best card it can be. Although it's pretty likely that I just want to flash back this Lightning Bolt. We'll see. We will see. We could leave Traverse as the only card in the graveyard, which is the only case in which I even want to play around Traverse when delving, because there are no Traverses left in our library or hand. We saw all three of them. They're currently sitting in exile. We had the choice of putting one or more in the graveyard and delving away this Visions or even paying the Steam Vents for mana. However, I don't really like that option. Here is a 4/4 Death's Shadow. That could be getting bigger, which is a real concern. If we do want to keep Traverse in the graveyard, then we need to also support the Traverse that is in the graveyard, because I don't need more basics. So that just seems like a bad idea, whereas Visions isn't great, but it's better than that, I think. I don't plan on using a 5th mana source, although double red could be relevant. We could get double red just by playing it. Do I want to attack? If they don't block with the Death's Shadow, I think I do want to attack, because if they block with the Shadow and then lower their life total, we can bolt it. Which obviously is not great because we're 2-for-1ing ourselves. But that also requires them to have a way to gain life, or sorry, to lose life. So I think it's not bad. There's also the fact that if they don't block with the Shadow and they don't have a Terminate or something, they just lose. And I like the opponent just losing. They do know about this Lightning Bolt because of that Inquisition. They blocked. Yep, that makes sense. Are they going to lose life? They aren't. They just want to trade. They didn't trade. Oh no. Oh no. I did a bad thing, guys. I did a bad thing. I forgot about state-based actions. The game doesn't check if Death's Shadow is dead until they have already lost life and Death's Shadow gets a lot bigger. Okay, so we probably just lost the game due to that misplay. Unless we top deck a Snapcaster Mage or another Lightning Bolt. They also need to not have Temur Battle Rage here. So, I mean, we didn't lose on the spot, at least. And they actually don't have great attacks with Shadow, which is really good for us, because if they attack with Shadow, we get in with Mandrills, and they're dead if they don't have a fatty to follow up with. Thought Scour is going to be used right now, because I want to draw into good cards. Scalding Tarn is not one of those good cards, but we're more likely to draw Snapcaster Mage and Lightning Bolt. We haven't seen any other burn spells yet, so I believe we're just going to sit back. I want to play this Scalding Tarn now, so that I can get double red. No, we're good. The opponent might be sitting on stubborn denials, which is obviously a huge problem. There's also the fact that the longer the game goes, the more likely they are to draw into a subsequent fatty, and then we'll be able to get in with the shadow. Kolagon's command make me discard a card, or are they going to... They can't shock and bolt the mandrills to deal with it. So I think if I were them, I would save that until their own turn, but they probably just want to get back the Death Shadow and use it. Do I want to Lightning Bolt them right now? Because they don't have Denial up. If I bolt them now, this Death Shadow becomes an 11/11. We have to block Snapcaster Mage in that instance. And if we don't block Shadow, then any burn spell kills us. Also, are they targeting us with damage? They're going for mode 4, mode 1. So they are shocking us. Alright. Which means we definitely don't want to Lightning Bolt them now because Death Shadow becomes lethal. They now have a way to lose life at instant speed, meaning we have to block the Death Shadow. Also, if they have a Terminate, we lose. I am contractually obligated to make this block. So, I'm just going to hope that I draw a burn spell. Taking damage off of this fetch is pretty free when the opponent has 2 lethal attackers and I have nothing. So I'm basically just hoping to draw a Bolt or a Snapcaster Mage. And hope that the opponent doesn't have a counter. So, now, I don't think Death Shadow ever plays Mana Leak, but can I play around it? I don't believe I can. Because if I bolt now, we aren't playing around it, and if I bolt later, we're not playing around it, so we may as well just draw a card. Is it good? It's not good. They can't crack the Bloodstained Mire. Well, they can crack it, but they can't shock because of the Lightning Bolt. I forgot about that previously. That is so important. We didn't have to block. We could have had a Mandrills, which I don't know is actually helpful in any capacity, but we could have had a Mandrills. Is that not enough? May as well get rid of the instant. It doesn't matter. So yeah, we kind of just screwed ourselves there by forgetting that they didn't have the ability to shock, because now we're dead to Death Shadow plus Snapcaster Mage, and they're just going to swing with the team and we will lose. Which is unfortunate. Probably should have noticed that earlier, but at least we noticed it. We will block defiantly. Oh, we can bolt the Snapcaster Mage. But we had to go to end step, and then we would die on the next turn anyways. So yeah, that's not a big loss. Couple misplays in there, but at least we saw them, so that's good. It's nice to learn from your mistakes. Forked Bolt seems... well, I mean, it hits Snapcaster Mage, so it's not awful. It hits Lingering Souls if they're splashing it. I don't know if Grixis often splashes Lingering Souls, but we have a contingency plan against it. I don't know if that's important. I want Blood Moon and Huntmaster because, as you saw, that game went long. And they have a lot of non-basics that I would like to turn into mountains. Pyroclasm seems bad, so does Pillar. EE is here for the Death Shadow matchups, primarily. Vapor Snag is mostly here for Death Shadow Jund because we can't dismember their fatties easily, but I will happily bring it in. I probably end up cutting Disrupting Shoal here. I also might cut a non-zero number of Traverse, even though it showed that it wasn't particularly bad that game. I just have a lot of cards that I would like to cut. Forked Bolt and a Bolt will probably have to go just so that we can make room. We probably cut a non-zero amount of Thought Scours and say a Mana Leak. trim down. I like Spell Snare because it counters Snapcaster Mage, which is a pretty big deal. It also counters Tarmogoyf. Sorry, not Tarmogoyf, Terminate. Maybe we just cut the last, well, not the last Scour, but another Scour. That doesn't seem so bad. We could run this. I don't hate this configuration, so we're going to give it a go. And we'll be on the play with a hand that I would like to keep. They will almost certainly go turn 1 discard spell, taking Blood Moon. But then we get an Engineered Explosives on 1, which I might actually not want to play right away because they have Kolaghan's Command. So we have to go between, do I worry about Kolaghan's Command or do I worry about discard spells taking away my explosives? It's a hard trade-off to decide on. There are percentage points in either direction, both directions even. This is almost certainly a discard spell, but I don't regret playing the Steam Vents tapped because there was basically zero utility to tapping out for it. It's actually a Steam Vents. I could have shocked and played the EE, but I don't know if that's right. Maybe it is. That way we could do something else on turn 2 while already having EE on board. That doesn't seem awful. It's notable that EE is so much worse against Grixis than it is Jund, because Grixis runs Delve Fatties where Jund plays Tarmogoyfs. Goyf dies to explosives. Delve Fatties don't, so there's that. I am going to cast this for 1 and hold up Stubborn Denial. And if they don't have a discard spell, I'm just going to run a Blood Moon out there. It's possible they got the island to play around Blood Moon, which is at least somewhat interesting. Notable that we can't denial a discard spell if they leave the island up. They aren't doing anything. I'm going to get a basic island, but I don't know if I want to cast Blood Moon because they run Stubborn Denial. And that's a non-zero amount of blowout. Being able to hold up Thought Scour seems nice, so we'll just do that. I would like to play around Blood Moon, around Denial. Once again, there's a trade-off because we're playing around Denial versus Discard Spell. Thought Scour's fine. That's the nice thing about Thought Scour being an instant. You get to hold up the threat of counterspells or the counterspells themselves while still being able to cast your Thought Scour should you not need it. The counterspells, that is. We're going to get a basic forest. They're going to know that we plan on using Blood Moon, but hey, what are you going to do? Thought Scour us, because they're not the only ones who want to mill. Lightning Bolt isn't bad, but I would have preferred the 4th land for Huntmaster. Speak of the devil, he shall appear, yada yada yada. Let's play Huntmaster. We can get a basic island, but I think... Basic island, basic mountain. But I believe that we're better off getting the Stomping Ground and having double green until Blood Moon comes into effect. So I'm gonna do that. Do I want to slam Blood Moon and just play around Denial? I don't think so. I like to tap in the easy way instead of having to select colors. Huntmaster gives them at least some amount of trouble because Fatal Push doesn't kill it. Of course, they do have ways of killing it, but hey. Kolaghan's Command is one such way, and they are also taking out our EE. But that's okay. We used a 2-for-1, they used a 2-for-1. What are you gonna do? They're probably in a better spot because Death's Shadow is a lot better than a 2/2 Wolf token. But hey. They can Fetch Shock and play a Shadow, but then unless they have Street Wraith, it dies to Lightning Bolt. And if they do have Street Wraith, it dies to Dismember. They do have Street Wraith, but it does die to Dismember. I assume they drew into that Visions off of the Street Wraith, because if they didn't, they almost certainly want to use the Serum Visions first and then draw after having scryed, but that information doesn't do us a lot of good. So it's pretty unlikely that they have a Death's Shadow, given that they did all of that cantripping and played a Tasigur. I'm pretty sure I want to try dismembering the Tasigur, and then I don't know what follows up with that. I want to attack with the Wolf, because that puts them pretty close to bolt range. It also puts them squarely in Bolt Snap bolt range. This is interesting. If we go for Bolt Snap Bolt, it's possible that they have Stubborn Denial up. If they don't, though, they lose. And if we go for Dismember and then they denial that, we can bolt on their end step. But if they have Inquisition of Kozilek, we're in a bad spot because they take our Snapcaster Mage. Magic is great. Did you guys know Magic is great? I knew Magic is great. I'm going to go for the Dismember play. It's more conservative. I like that about it. We don't have Bolt Snap Bolt up anyways, so I'm going to use one of the red sources. There's the Stubborn Denial. Now we could spend our Lightning Bolt taking out their Tasigur in conjunction with this Wolf, but I think we're better off not doing that. I think I'd rather just put them on one blue source with the Blood Moon, or we could bolt them on end step into Snap Bolt. The other nice thing about that is we could bolt them, play Snapcaster Mage just as an Ambush Viper, and have an extra 2 power threat. No, I think I'd rather Blood Moon. It's possible we should have gone for the Blood Moon play first, so that the Dismember would have resolved. They push the token, sure. That's fine. Alright. Their ability to draw into answers to Bolt Snap Bolt is now limited, although they are way ahead on board. Whew. If they don't have the answer, we win the game. That's the important thing. And I very much like winning games. If they do have an answer, they probably take the Snapcaster Mage. That's assuming it's a discard spell, because then we don't have the body. EE for 3, I really don't care about, and I would love to see you tap that blue source. Please! Please tap all the colored sources that aren't red. Come on, Island Swamp. You can do it. No, not 2. Don't go for Goyf. It's fine, they passed the turn. They can't counter things. Bolt you. Did I mention I like Snapcaster Mage because of Bolt Snap Bolt? Snapcaster Mage. Cool. Fantastic. One of my favorite ways of winning against Death's Shadow decks is them doing the work and then me finishing them off. Other such favorites are Snag, Snap, Snag, and Charm, Snap, Charm, because that lets you do lots of fun combat math. How good is EE? On the draw, it's even slower. I think I'm going to go down to 1. The same argument goes for Blood Moon, but Blood Moon is really good. What do I want to do? It's neat that they run EE as well. Engineered Explosives is such a good card. It's probably better than it should be. Do I want the other Lightning Bolt? It doesn't do that much outside of Bolt Snap Bolt, but as we saw, Bolt Snap Bolt is nothing to scoff at. I don't know how I feel about Mandrills, but I'm a little happier to have them if I have Simic Charm in my deck, as well as just bounce spells in general. I'm looking to add something in place of this EE, but what is almost as impactful while being faster? Possibly Thought Scour. I could see wanting to speed ourselves up. I don't know if that's any good, but I could see it. They do have answers to Blood Moon. They actually have a lot of answers to Blood Moon, so running redundant Blood Moons is relevant. Seems nice. Do I just continue playing the second EE? I guess so. See, that's what I meant in the previous video against the funky Tron deck, where I don't do a lot of post-board sideboarding. Game 3 sideboarding, which I do think I should work on, because there are almost certainly percentage points to be picked up there. This hand looks really good because we have 2 lands, and... oh, I can't highlight anymore because we're not in the deck editor. We have 3 threats and 2 cantrips that are very good at drawing us into threats. Nihil Spellbomb is really good against Goyf, but it does actual nothing against Delver, which will be our turn 1 play. We can threaten Blood Moon. I'm not super big on it with the opponent having this much time to play around it. It's notable that they had a lot of time to play around it last time, which is why Blood Moon didn't just win the game on the spot, but in conjunction with them tapping out of relevant disruption, Blood Moon was pretty good. It was pretty good. That island was natural. They didn't go out of their way to get it. It's always important to pay attention to things like that, because that's relevant to whether or not they're paying attention to playing around Blood Moon. If they fetch out an island or traverse out an island, which I have done before, so it is relevant. This is probably a Tasigur. Or maybe they were just trying to play Tasigur. I don't play Grixis Delver much or at all, so I don't know the lines. We won't reveal that. But yeah, if your opponent plays Island out of their hand, they aren't necessarily playing around Blood Moon. If they fetch out an Island and they're a Shadow deck, they're probably playing around Blood Moon. Something to keep in mind, I believe I want to fetch here so that I can thin my deck. I want 4 lands in play anyways, so we're almost certainly cracking these, and that gives us more draw steps that are likely to, or are slightly less likely to be lands. So I'm going to get a forest, cast Tarmogoyf. If they push it, cool. If they don't push it, cool. If they Nihil Spellbomb, cool. I'm okay with all of these things. I'm not picky. I just want to get in for some damage, play some threats, and eventually win the match. That's all. Nihil Spellbomb doesn't look great right now because we have a hand of Goyfs as opposed to a hand of Mandrills. Sure, exile my graveyard. See how much I care. Your graveyard's carrying Goyf. They also need to delve away their yard in conjunction, or they can Spellbomb their own graveyard, use the black to draw a card, and just make delve a lot worse. So, they're doing the Our Graveyard play. They probably just want the cantrip here. It's nice that they put an artifact in the yard for us, but they'll probably be delving that away sometime soon. Let's get rid of that exile window. I hate that exile window. The worst. Absolute worst. That is a huge exaggeration. There are plenty of things that are worse than the exile window, but man, do I not like that exile window. If we can go Serum Vision's Goyf on our next turn, I think I'm going to be pretty happy. Terminate. Ooh. Terminate into a... not into a Delve Fatty. Wow, they're holding up Stubborn Denial for Blood Moon, probably. Can I get a transformation here? I can. Oh, and we can Goyf hold up Denial instead of casting Serum Visions? Oh yes. Oh yes, that's sweet. No sorceries in the bin, so once we do get around to casting that Visions, Goyf is going to be a 5/6. I am dancing in my seat right now. You guys can't see it, but it's happening. Land. I think we play Goif pre-combat. Cancel. We're gonna fetch now. We want to fetch anyways. We may as well hold up a red source for bluffing purposes. I almost certainly want to get the island out of the deck, so I have zero qualms with this line. Let's get in there. Hold up Stubborn Denial. Oh yes. Oh yes. They need to delve quite hard to turn off this denial, and they don't have a delve fatty yet, so I'm going to assume they just don't have one in their hand. They need to draw it. Thought Scour and Draw Step gave them 2 draws to it. Also, our opponent put themselves to 11. Well, actually, they only did 8 points of damage. We did 1 with the Delver side, 3 with the Aberration side. They're at 8. If I Serum Visions, we have lethal on board. It's great. I love it. They need to start impacting things. Oh, hey, Kolagon's command. Guess what? Denial. Do you have Denial up? You better hope you do. Because I am coming for you, Mr. Kolagon's command. I am coming for you. Now they fetch. They go down lower. They'll be tapped out if they want to counter our Denial. Goif gets in for 5. They go down to 2. Tarfire or Bolt do the job. We can use 2 Serum Visions to try to draw into something good. I mean, we're in a good spot, right? Did they try to just pay 1? They did. They didn't realize we have Ferocious on. That is a misplay that will cost them the game. Unless they have something like a Slaughter Pact. That could save them. They don't have Slaughter Pact. That's the game. If they didn't have a Stubborn Denial, they were probably dead regardlessly. Because if they don't have Stubborn Denial, they can't counter our Stubborn Denial, and then they're dead on board anyways. But so, forgetting about Ferocious isn't super duper relevant. It's kind of ironic that they're also a Stubborn Denial deck, and they forgot that our Denial was Ferocious. So that's neat. That's Grixis Delver for you guys. That's a nice meta deck, so I'm glad we got to get a video in with that. I do pay attention to what you guys watch, and it does look like the either super spicy decks with new cards and the metagame decks are the ones people like to see. So I am trying to aim for those kinds of decks. But I don't always hit somebody who wants to play something conducive to that game plan. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I do hope you watched this video. But what I meant to say is I hope you liked this video. And I do hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.